The promise is that the state and the legislature and state leaders would do everything in their power to make this a reality to curb the worst effects of the climate crisis. And unfortunately, we are not on target to meet those goals at this point.
I'm sorry for all of this confusion, but as I said, because we are living in a normal situation, a miserable situation.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to the Struggle Video News. This is Isra University in Gaza City. It was established 10 years ago. 65% of the students are female. It was blown up on January 17th. Democracy Now! Played a segment of a press conference which shows the Biden administration's utter lack of concern for what happened.
We want to go right now to the State Department. The questioning of Matt Miller, State Department spokesperson, by the Associated Press reporter Matt Lee. This took place last week about Israel's demolition of Al-Isra University in Gaza.
I mean, it looks like a controlled demolition. It looks like what we do here in this country when we're taking down an old hotel or a stadium. And you have nothing to say? You have nothing to say about this? I mean, to do that kind of an explosion, you need to be in there. You have to put the explosives down, and it takes a lot of planning and preparation to do. And if there was a threat from this particular facility, they wouldn't have been able to do it.
So I have seen the video. I can tell you that it is something we are raising with the governor of Israel, as we often do when we see
raising as
when,
what?
When we see to ask questions and find out what the underlying situation is, as we often do when we see reports of this nature. But I'm not able to characterize the actual facts on the ground before hearing that response.
Yeah, but you saw the video.
I did see the video. I don't know what was under that
being imploded.
I don't know what was under that building. I don't know what was inside.
But it doesn't matter what was under the building, because they obviously got in there to put the explosives down to do it in the way that they did.
Again, I'm glad you have factual certainty about it. I just don't.
All I have is what I saw in the video.
I just
right?
don't.
And I think you guys saw it too.
We did see it, and I can say that we have raised it with the government of Israel.
And it's not troubling to you?
We are always troubled by
If you're thinking that the university had been used as a base for fighters, you'd be right. Except it wasn't being used by Hamas. It was the Israeli military that had used it as a base for a month before they destroyed it with 300 mines. The university had held 3,000 artifacts, some going back to Roman times, now all rubble, unless the Israeli military had looted it. NPR's Steve Inskeep on January 24th presented an interview with Ahmed Al-Husseina, vice president of Isra University, who had escaped Gaza. In Inskeep's introduction, he noted that Al-Husseina had lost 102 family members. We'll link to Inskeep's interview in our archive on Palestine. So what have the professor and teacher unions in the U.S. been saying about the destruction of the Palestinian colleges? AAUP, AFT, NEA. Your silence is deafening. We'll come back to Palestine later in the program, but there's an important climate rally coming up in Hartford on February 2nd. And I want you to hear an interview I did with Ann Gadhwah of the Sierra Club. We're going to talk about the dire climate situation and an upcoming climate march in Hartford, Connecticut on Friday, February 2nd. I'll be speaking to Ann Gadhwah, who is the advocacy and outreach organizer for the Connecticut Sierra Club. Good afternoon.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So the march is billed as Keep Connecticut's Climate Promise. What was the promise?
Well, the promise was back in 2008, we were one of the first states to enact a Global Warming Solutions Act. And that was the promise is that we would be 10% below 1990 levels by 2020. And 80% less emissions by 2050. It was updated in 2016, I believe, to include a sub-target in 2030 to have 45% less emissions. The promise is that the state and the legislature and state leaders would do everything in their power to make this a reality to curb the worst effects of the climate crisis. And unfortunately, we are not on target to meet those goals at this point. So there was a promise made that folks would do what they could to alleviate these, the worst effects of climate change and to do everything they could to reduce emissions. But we are still, unfortunately, climbing.
As I understand it, we met the first goal sort of and then fell off of it. The one
Yes.
about 10% by 2020. Is that right?
Yeah, well, that was because we had a little bit of an anomaly in 2020, right? Like with the COVID pandemic, people stayed inside more, people started working from home, there wasn't as much traffic, there wasn't as much activity that there normally is that creates, the more activity really in this society right now, the more climate emissions there are. So that kind of skewed the data. So we did meet it, but because they dipped in 2020, but now since we've gone kind of back to business as normal, they've started to creep up again.
Yeah. So this next goal is much higher. I mean, cutting 45% by 2030, that's just 5 years and, almost 6 years, but whatever, it's basically cutting in half.
Yeah.
And,
it's going.
It's not just a Connecticut goal. It's the IPCC basically said that's what we have to do.
Right.
And gave their doom forecast back in 2018.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think, my theory is that, there's a lot of big problems in the world, but what can we do locally really, right, to get us towards those things? And what we really can do, looking out at the world and the enormous things that are going on, like really what can we do right here? So Connecticut, is in a unique position to be able to do some things to help that. And if everybody could pitch in that little bit to get us down, then we would be in much better shape than we are. We've already seen, record flooding, more intense storms. I'm looking out right now at 50 degrees in January. It's, it's just, we're not sure what's going to happen. We're not sure what's going to happen. And it's getting a little scary. So we really need to start taking this stuff seriously and taking drastic steps to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels.
Let's talk about the march itself. So it's Friday, the 2nd of February. At what time and where does it start? Where will it go?
Yeah. It's so it starts at 12 o'clock noon, and it starts at the Old State House, at the plaza behind the Old State House. And then we will be marching to the Capitol from there, with stops along the way. So we will be marching from the Old State House to Eversource, to Travelers, to the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, to the Legislative Office Building, and then back to the Capitol to rally at the end. Right? We'll have so that the thought is that the plan is, and I think it's coming along nicely, is to have a speaker at each of those stops that's going to talk about, the problems facing the state, in particular to that stop, what that state leader, because, the legislature and the governor, they're our state leaders, but so are the businesses in Connecticut, so is Eversource, who is one of our main energy suppliers, and Travelers, who is, our flagship industry is insurance. So, they have a lot of influence on which direction the state goes. So really, it's going to be folks speaking at the stops, and they're going to be telling, we have a sign-on letter that all of our organizations, we have 25 organizations that have signed on to support the climate march, what they can do as a state leader to start moving us towards, reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030. That's our first goal here, right?
So let's be clear. It starts on the side of the State House that's facing the highways, the Market
So
Street
the
side.
state, yep, no, that's okay. So the State House is, yes, the State House facing the plaza behind, right? So when you're looking at the old State House from Main Street, it's behind there. It's not from the front
Right,
entrance.
by
Yeah,
Blumenthal's
and we'll have
office.
people stationed if people are coming, we'll have people stationed, on the corners to be like, hey, climate march this way. So we're hoping to have enough of a turnout too. You won't be able to miss us. So
So you mentioned other groups besides the Sierra Club, but could you mention a couple?
yes, we've been working diligently with groups like Save the Sound, Connecticut League of Conservation Voters, Nonprofit Accountability Group, which is a community group in Hartford. We're working with, let me think quickly, Connecticut Citizens Action Group, the Climate Crisis Mobilization, the Connecticut Climate Crisis Mobilization, No More Dirty Power, Black Lives Matter 860, Clean Water Action, the Interreligious Eco Justice Network, Renews Connecticut, student groups, Sunrise Connecticut, and Sunrise Wesleyan, and then Third Act, which I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with, but it's Bill McKibben's started sort of a new group, and it's folks like from retirement age that really care about the climate crisis and are really making a good difference. I gotta say, it's been amazing, but I really feel like it's grassroots oriented. I feel like it's a really diverse group of folks that, are coming at the climate crisis from different angles and have different interests, but all realize the need to take action. So it's pretty exciting.
So the march will be on the street itself?
Yes, yep. We'll be marching on the street itself. We have, calls in with the Hartford Police Department, who have always been really good, at least the Sierra Club, about, bringing us through the, the lights and making sure that we are safe. So, and then
Besides signs and banners, will there be any other things that marchers might be holding to catch the eye or ear?
yeah, I'm really excited. We have a couple people will be in costumes, which is always fun. Last time, I'm hoping he'll come again. There was a man on stilts dressed like Uncle Sam, which is always fun. We'll have chantings and singings. We're hoping to have a marching band. We're in talks right now with a couple folks that will be able to come out and make some music. We have 2 local poets from Hartford who are going to be writing a poem to end it up. We have faith leaders speaking. We have folks from some of the administration coming out to talk as well, and legislators. So it should really be bright and good and good. The weather so far looks pretty good. Looks to be like 35, 40 degrees and not raining or snowing or anything. So that's really a big help. And yeah, I mean, we we have such a as I look around the movement, we have such a great group of people who are creative and artists and just, people that really come from the heart. So I'm expecting some really beautiful stuff.
And I assume people who are not part of groups are invited to join anyway?
Of course, everybody is invited to join. Everyone's invited to join. It's open to everybody. It's open to, folks that care about these issues. And it's to want to join a group to make their voice heard, join a group of folks. They don't have to join a particular group, but joining the group of folks as a whole, right? That really can make the difference. The legislative session starts on the 7th. I know it's a shorter session, but we can really get some stuff done. So really looking forward to the march and looking forward to seeing everybody there.
So you said we need some drastic action. So what are some of the demands that climate activists are saying that would make a big difference?
Okay, let me see. So first of all, we need to update the Global Warming Solutions Act. It is we need some more interim targets. We need ways to make it, to meet there. We need to take some action, some drastic action regarding transportation. And there's been the big fight in the legislature and with the governor's office and the Department of Environmental Protection to electrify the cars. But we also need more public transportation. We need clean transportation. We need folks that are, willing to put in the effort to have more walking and bikeable trails. Like we need, we're very heavy reliant on cars, and we need to be able to have other ways to get around besides cars. So that's a big one too. Addressing barriers to energy efficiency programs, expandable renewable energy development, moving away from fossil fuels. Like, no more gas infrastructure. There's two big projects right now that, I mean, in 2024, it's just shocking to me. And I've been doing this work for about 7 years. So there's people that have been doing this much longer that are probably more shocked than I am. But there's a project at Maple, which would redo another gas pipeline through the state. And then there's a compressor station they want to put in Brookfield that would also be carrying gas. And it just, I mean, at this point, when we're supposed to be, reducing our emissions so quickly in 6 years, to be putting more gas infrastructure in is just mind-boggling. So, thinking about things like carbon-free and healthy schools, energy efficient schools that, are powered by solar, powered by renewable energy. And one of the things that one of our groups are talking about too is an environmental rights amendment, which would solidify in the state constitution everybody's right to a healthy environment, clean water, clean air, which is an interesting thing because it kind of brings up, the inalienable right to a clean environment, and has been successful in stopping some things in places like Montana. So
You mentioned mass transportation. I'm over in the western edge of the state, and I was, saying, well, maybe I could get to the Hartford March. Let's see, bus, train. Basically impossible. You want to take a train, you got to go down to Norwalk, over to New Haven, and up to Hartford. No one's going to do that.
Right. I
It's
live in the
ridiculous.
northwest part of the state. I live in New Hartford, and we're on 40. I mean, there's one bus that goes into Hartford at like 7:45 in the morning and then comes back. I mean, there's really no other way. Even everybody's very car reliant. So finding out different ways to get folks around would really be a good step in the right direction.
Now, I work also for promoting enduring peace, and I wanted to bring up a couple things that
Sure.
we've been talking about. One is the use of gasoline for lawn care. Connecticut in 2022 burned nearly 41 million gallons of gas just for lawn care. Has the Sierra Club considered actions to phase out or limit the burning of gasoline for lawn care?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Last year there was a bill in the Environment Committee. I don't think it ended up going, it didn't end up going anywhere, but to start requiring leaf blowers and lawn mowers and electronic lawn equipment, gas powered lawn equipment, to switch over to electric. So it would be battery powered, which is available right now. You can go in, and it's affordable now, and more folks are doing it. Like, the free market is kind of like starting to see where the winds are shifting this way. So you are getting a lot more opportunity, but we absolutely do support that. It's, even in my own neighborhood, I'm always like, oh, it's leaf blower season. And people, it's a lot. And those 2-stroke engines are really polluting, and they use a lot of gasoline. They don't just use a lot of gasoline. They're polluting for, in your own little local area for your kids and your pets and yourself. So, yeah, it's really a big thing that can make a big difference by switching over to electric. So yes, we do support that.
Now, talking about drastic, promoting enduring peace has been floating the idea of rationing fossil fuel as an interim measure. One, even more drastic, is a public takeover of the fossil fuel industries. But before that, rationing. It was done in World War II, and we have
in the 70s too, I guess, rationing in the 70s, right? I will be honest with you, I haven't thought about that. And I'm not sure of the Sierra Club's position on that, so I would have to get back to you. But I don't think that, I mean, they're not an infinite source anyway, so so moving away from them is the main goal here, but limiting the amount of that people can just use, because for so long, it's just been everybody just, right, free for all the time and without consequence. And I think looking into something like that would be worthwhile, even if it wasn't necessarily.
Good. My last question, if people want to find more about the March or the Sierra Club, how could they do that?
Yeah, no, we have a information on our webpage. Our webpage is connecticut.sierraclub.org. You can look on our outings page. There's an RSVP link there, and you can connect with me if you'd like to. My email is ann.gadhwah@sierraclub.org.
Back to Palestine, to the northern part of Gaza, which is getting little attention. According to the New York Times, over 300,000 Palestinians remain there with little or no aid. According to the UN, the Israeli military has reduced aid shipments drastically since the start of the year, especially to what remains of the barely functioning hospitals. What follows will be audio clips from an interview I did with Najwah Sheikh, who is in the Gaza Strip with her family. You'll hear the audio. She's in some kind of large room with a lot of other people, so the audio quality has obviously suffered, but please concentrate and it will be worth your while. I first wrote to Najwah Sheikh in 2009 after reading some of her eloquent letters that she had posted on the UNRWA site. She was kind enough to write back. I interviewed her a few times over the years. Once I could hear bombs exploding in the background. She lived in a refugee camp in central Gaza. Of course, things are now much worse. I noticed that occasionally she's been posting on Facebook. So after a while, I reached her through Facebook Messenger. The internet is much too spotty for us to have a live conversation, but she asked me to send her questions and she would make audio clips in answer. My first request was for her to describe what's happening to her and her family.
Hi Stan, I hope this finds you well. It's unbelievable how many times I have tried to record answers for your questions, because every time I tried to speak, I couldn't organize my ideas. There is too much inside me to be said. There is too much anger. There is too much frustration. As a mother, we feel that we are left behind. People do not understand what is meant to be under a constant chilling and bombardments every day, with the risk of being killed or losing someone who's dear to you. Our lives since the 7th of October have been changed dramatically. It's not only my life and the life of my children, but also the life of 2.2 million people living in the Gaza Strip. The loss was great to handle, the pain was huge, the horror and fear and concerns are huge for a human being to understand and to try to cope. As you are aware, and I hope that also those who hear me are aware, that most of the population of Gaza fled their houses into the south, Rafah area in particular, because the bombing was constant and the Israeli armies were requesting people to flee their houses to what they called safe zones or safe areas. I'm sorry for all of this confusion, but as I said, because we are living in a normal situation, a miserable situation. We do not have the luxury to think very well or to organize our thoughts. Currently, our main concerns is to stay safe and to find food and medication for our children. Life since the 7th of October changed. People lost their safe areas, their houses. We have been fleeing from one place to another looking for a safe zone, though there is no safe place in the Gaza Strip. Everywhere there is bombing, every person is targeted.
So apparently she's now in Rafah with literally 1 million other people right hard on the Egyptian border. She had stayed in her home throughout October and November until the end of December. On January 5th, I saw her Facebook post where she wrote, "Now I know what it means to be forcibly displaced, to leave your house, the place that gave you a mixture of comfortable feelings. It was too hard to leave my house a week ago." I asked her why she left.
Why I took the decision to leave my house? Because we tried to remain in the house despite of the bombing, but day by day it became very hard for my children, for my son, to cope with the constant sounds of bombing and the fears of destroying the house on top of our heads. He had a breakdown. So we decided to leave our home, which is the only thing we worked hard and we worked years to build it. So we decided to leave it and to flee like other people to Rafah, to the south.
See the full interview on YouTube. Search for The Struggle Video News. The new figures for January are out. Based on the Treasurer's statistics, Connecticut's investments in Israel rose in value. They're now worth $95 million. They include over 200 companies. $6 million is in State of Israel bonds, which Israel can use for any purpose. And near $1 million in Elbit, a private company that makes the vast majority of Israel's ground-based weapons and drones. These investments, which are basically the savings of Connecticut public employees, are directly helping the Israeli war machine, its apartheid, and now genocide. Why not call your state rep, your state senator, or governor Lamont and tell them we shouldn't be profiting from blood money? Ending with better news. The 2 million member SEIU National Union has called for a ceasefire in Gaza. To see the full long list of unions taking this stand, go to thestrugglevideo.org/unions. That's our program for today. Go out and march for Gaza, for Palestine, and for the climate. I'm Stanley Heller for the Struggle Video News.